This is how it happened. This is how the Batman died.
Hey, what's happening, DC Gun viewers? It's me, the DC Gun 1, and welcome to the video. In this video, we'll be looking at Batman Arkham Knight. And while I already made a tribute video earlier in the year to mark the 10-year anniversary of the game, I felt that this game deserved a more in-depth analysis looking into its successes, its failures, and its legacy 10 years later. Batman Arkham Knight was released on June 23, 2015, and was marketed as the conclusion to the Arkham trilogy and would supposedly be the final installment of the series. Since its release a decade ago, and even more so in recent years, Arkham Knight is a game that seemingly has a lot of fans split down the middle, with one side praising it as a masterpiece of a video game and a great ending to the Arkham series, and the other side viewing it as a convoluted and underwhelming disappointment that wastes characters and potential storylines and failed to fully realize its vision. Both sides have valid points, and I think your stance on the game is going to come down to what you're able to overlook, and how much these things affect your gaming experience. I made a post back in June right after replaying through all of Arkham Knight where I gave my thoughts on the game and how it compares to the other installments in the Arkham trilogy. This video will mostly be expanding on the points made in that post, so there will be several comments throughout the video that will basically be repeating what I said before. Personally, I think Arkham Knight is a great game. I still stand by that there are multiple things that Arkham Knight did better than every other game in the series, and every other Batman game in general. One of those things is the visuals. Even after 10 years, Batman Arkham Knight still looks absolutely incredible. It's one of the best looking video games I have ever seen, and the fact that no other Batman game since has been able to match the graphics of Arkham Knight is a testament to how amazing it looks. Just comparing gameplay footage from Arkham Knight to Gotham Knights, the next installment in the Arkham series, which came out 7 years later, shows just how advanced the graphics for Arkham Knight were for the time, and how they more than hold up even today. The designs of the characters are also really well done. Several characters are given massive makeovers, with some of the more exaggerated designs being toned down to much more realistic appearances. The more realistic designs of the characters adds to the grittier and darker tone of the game, and sells the idea that everyone in this game has been through a lot over the years, and you can see that in their appearances. The events of the previous games have worn these people down, and no one is the same person that they were when the series started. Arkham Knight's other main strength is the gameplay. The tagline for the game was "Be the Batman," and it really is more than just a tagline. I don't think any other video game has truly captured the feeling of being Batman more than Arkham Knight. The combat is so fluid and satisfying, with every strike feeling like a bomb going off. The new additions too, and the variety of the gadgets and the way they are implemented into the gameplay, from the combat to the Predator sections and missions, makes you feel like an unstoppable one-man army, and it makes you believe that one guy could actually take on an entire militia group by himself. You feel like you can handle any and every situation, and the variety of different approaches that you can take keeps you coming back just to try out different tactics. Just look up Arkham Knight stealth videos on YouTube to see what I'm talking about. The inclusion of the Batmobile added a whole new element of gameplay that had never been seen in the series before, and added to the experience of being Batman. And it was amazing to finally get to drive around the Batmobile in an open-world Batman game as large and as detailed as Arkham Knight. Another achievement of the game is its longevity. Arkham Knight is 10 years old. That's a lifetime for a single-player game, and yet people are still playing it. If you search Batman Arkham Knight on YouTube, you'll find that people are still uploading gameplay videos regularly. A lot of that is due to how enjoyable the gameplay itself is, but it's also due to the sheer amount of content within the game. The base game is already the biggest of the Arkham series, when you add together the main story, the side missions, and the AR missions. In addition, you have all of the DLC content, including Season of Infamy, which adds 4 more side missions, the Arkham episodes, which adds 6 additional story packs, and dozens of races and challenges. And with 8 playable characters in total, each one with a different playstyle and multiple skins, each playthrough of every challenge is a unique experience. Not only is the amount of additional content for Arkham Knight incredible, but it actually changes the game as opposed to feeling like its own separate thing that isn't connected to the base game, or simply just being an aesthetic change, like skins. The best example is the fact that Rocksteady went through the additional effort to create and program an additional wing in the GCPD for the Season of Infamy villains, and program additional game mechanics for the DLC characters and story packs. There's so much content in the game that it's actually amazing, and even after you complete everything and have done everything that you could possibly do in the game, it's still a fun game to just mess around in. All of the performances are amazing, and the actors all do a great job at capturing the emotions of the story. Troy Baker portrays the heartbreak and trauma of the Arkham Knight amazingly, and where the writing falls short, Baker's performance more than compensates.
Don't you dare lie to me! How long did you wait before replacing me, huh? A month? A week? I trusted you! Wait.
John Noble is excellent as Scarecrow and nails the quiet, menacing whisper that still has such a sense of power behind it.
Truly are a legend laid bare, powerless, human, afraid.
Mark Hamill is phenomenal as always as the Joker, and is one of the most entertaining aspects of the game and completely steals the show.
You need to do something. You need to stop it.
Kevin Conroy once again shows why he is arguably the definitive Batman, and some of his lines in this game are some of his best lines in the entire series.
I am vengeance. I am the Knight. I am Batman.
What's wrong? Scared.
But like I said in the beginning, both sides have legitimate arguments, and I recognize that there are several prominent flaws with the game. While I stated earlier that there were multiple things that Arkham Knight did better than the other Arkham games, the story is not one of them. A lot of that is due to the fact that Paul Dini, one of the main writers behind Batman the Animated Series, and the main writer for Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, was not involved in writing the story for Arkham Knight. While the main storyline definitely has many plot holes and elements that don't make sense, like how someone's blood can somehow give you the personality and memories of that person, most of those things never really bothered me when I was playing the game, and there are already a lot of videos that go into much more detail about all the plot holes in Arkham Knight. Personally, the biggest thing that bothered me from a story standpoint was the handling of certain characters. There are several characters who are severely underutilized, and I would even say completely wasted. The one that stands out the most to me is Hush, aka Thomas Elliot. This was a character who was introduced to the series in an Arkham City side mission, and was immediately set up to become a major player in the series. By having Batman state in that game that Hush has already escaped Arkham City, and that he's opening a new case file on Thomas Elliot, sets up the idea that tracking down Hush is now one of Batman's priorities, and all but confirms that Hush will be coming back. Jump ahead to Arkham Knight, and Hush's role is reduced to a side mission that consists of 2 cutscenes, 1 QuickTime event, and that's it. Hush is defeated, and you never see him again. He doesn't even get a dialogue scene in GCPD because he gets sent to a different prison because he knows Batman's identity. Even though everyone learns Batman's identity by the end of the story, and depending on the order that you do things, you can confront Hush after Batman's identity has already been revealed, taking away the need to send Hush away to a separate prison. While most people single out the Deathstroke boss fight in this game, which I'll get to later, I feel that the Hush side mission is the most disappointing side mission / boss fight in the series, if you can even call it a boss fight. Even though the Deathstroke boss fight was a huge step down from his boss fight in Origins, at least it was an actual fight that you got to play that had some actual build-up to it. With the Hush confrontation, you press 1 button and that's it. There's no substance to it and it has no relation to the rest of the game. To have a character that could have had such an important role in the story wasted like that was personally my biggest problem with Arkham Knight. And apparently that wasn't always the plan. In the years since the game's release, we've learned that Paul Dini's original plan for the game had Hush as one of the main antagonists along with Scarecrow, with the story taking inspiration from the Hush storyline as opposed to Under the Hood. But since Dini wasn't involved in writing Arkham Knight, his plans were dropped, and we got the story that we got. Going back to Deathstroke, while I don't hate his boss fight as much as other people, I do feel that he was very underutilized as a character, and should have had much more significance to the game. I think it would have been much better if Deathstroke replaced the character of the Arkham Knight, and he had been the leader of the militia from the beginning, making him a constant presence throughout the entire game, including multiple encounters leading up to the final tank fight. They could have either used the Arkham Knight boss fights and switched him out for Deathstroke, or they could have made a new boss fight that takes the premise of the final Arkham Knight boss fight, where you have Batman exploring a building looking for Deathstroke, and have Slade randomly pop out and ambush you, engaging in a hand-to-hand combat sequence similar to his boss fight in Origins. Then, after you deal enough damage, Deathstroke disappears and you continue exploring the building, knowing that he could attack you at any moment. It would combine the exhilarating nature of the Origins boss fight with the tension of Killer Croc's sewer chase from Arkham Asylum. While Hush and Deathstroke are the most prominent examples, a lot of the rogues gallery in this game are very underutilized. Most of them are absent from the main story and only appear in cutscenes, side missions, or as hallucinations, and have no impact on the plot. This is especially odd because the marketing for the game made it seem that all of the villains had teamed up to take down Batman, and would be a constant presence throughout the story, as if you would have to take down each one over the course of the game on your way to taking down Scarecrow. Instead, you're able to activate the Nightfall protocol before you even encounter most of them. We do learn from Ivy that Scarecrow had brought together all of the villains for a secret meeting like we see in the trailer, and that the massive crime spree that each villain plays a part in is part of Scarecrow's plan. But this ends up being nothing more than a subplot that has no effect on the main story. Throughout the main story, the only villains you encounter are Scarecrow, the Arkham Knight, Joker, Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, Man-Bat, and Simon Stagg, as well as some brief interactions with Riddler on the TV screens. Compare that to Arkham City, where over the course of just the main story, you encounter Hugo Strange, Black Mask, Deadshot, Azrael, Two-Face, Harley Quinn, Joker, Mr. Freeze, Penguin, Solomon Grundy, Killer Croc, Ra's al Ghul, Talia al Ghul, Mad Hatter, Poison Ivy, and Clayface, and almost every one of them has a notable role in the game. Beyond the Rogues Gallery, the Bat family is also very underutilized. With a game that heavily features the term Nightfall and explores the idea of what happens to Batman when Bruce Wayne can no longer be the Caped Crusader, you would expect that the Bat family would have a much more prominent role. In the original Nightfall comic, after Bruce is taken out of action by Bane, Azrael becomes Bruce's successor and becomes the new Batman. And in the Battle for the Cow storyline, the three Robins fight amongst each other to determine who would take on the role as Batman. Meanwhile in Arkham Knight, Azrael is relegated to a side mission, before completely disappearing from the story and the series. He doesn't even get a DLC Arkham episode that shows what happens to him after the game. He just completely disappears from the story. Now granted, this is probably due to the two different endings throwing what's canon and Azrael's story up in the air, but still, they could have done a prequel story like Batgirl's A Matter of Family episode. Nightwing is almost an afterthought, and you forget that he is supposedly present in Gotham City during the entire story. And Tim never leaves the theater for the whole game, except for when he gets taken hostage by Scarecrow. And then you have Jason Todd, who is revealed as the Arkham Knight. The whole character of the Arkham Knight seems to be one of the biggest things that people didn't like from the game, and I think a lot of that is due to the reveal of Jason being the Knight not having the impact that it should have. Not only was the twist itself given away with the very first hallucination of Jason, but nothing really comes from the reveal. Because it happens so late in the story, Batman never has to deal with the prospect of going against and taking down the son who he let down years ago, and he doesn't struggle with the part he played in Jason becoming what he is. Instead, all of that story and drama gets squeezed into a single cutscene, and then, once again, Jason completely disappears from the story, only showing up for a few seconds in the final cutscene to save Batman. These are characters who should have had way more prominent roles and a consistent presence throughout the game. Poison Ivy was a way more prominent character in Arkham Knight. They even gave her a redemption arc and a big heroic sacrifice. And as a side note, can we take a moment to appreciate that Rocksteady had the foresight to redesign Poison Ivy for this game? Because there is no way that her death scene would have had the same impact if she still had her appearance from the previous games. Could you imagine trying to take Poison Ivy's death scene seriously if she had her bright red Blanca hair? The last big problem that I had with Arkham Knight was the Batmobile. Like I said before, being able to drive the Batmobile around in an open world as large as the open world in Arkham Knight is something that fans have been wanting to be included in a Batman game for years, and in that regard it's amazing. My problem is that the gameplay overused the Batmobile way too much, that it became repetitive. Multiple boss fights and side missions consisted entirely of using the Batmobile, making the game feel less like a third-person action-adventure game and more like World of Tanks. But even with all of that, I still think that Arkham Knight is a great game, and a fitting conclusion to the Arkham trilogy. There's a sense of finality to it that genuinely made it feel like the final installment to the series, and a proper send-off for Arkham Batman, especially compared to what has come since. Through both the marketing and the game itself, you got the impression that this game was going to be something big. Watching the launch trailer again a decade later is genuinely emotional. And of course part of that is due to the passing of Kevin Conroy in the years since. But also something about the music, the editing, and the dialogue made you believe that this is the end, that you're saying goodbye to these characters and this world for good, that everything had led up to this and that the series was finished. In all honesty, this game probably should have been the final installment of the series, or at least the final chapter of Batman's story. And looking at the series in hindsight, I feel that the Arkham series truly ended here. And even if there are notable flaws regarding the story and characters, as a game it still holds up incredibly well, and is still an enjoyable experience to play. If you want a game that makes you truly feel like the Dark Knight, this is it. And I think that's what this game was all about. It wasn't about being just another Batman game, it was about letting players be the Batman. But let me know what you think. Leave your thoughts in the comments below about what you think of Batman Arkham Knight, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos.